are a familiar face or a new face, welcome once again to the United JV. My name is Rich. I am the junior high and kids director here at Faith Family Church. And today, I was getting my lesson ready for today. And we are in the middle of a series called Who Are Your Few? Who are your few? So if you're taking notes, you can go ahead and write that down on the top of the page. This is actually our last week, I believe, in this series, all about friendships, because with school starting up, school poop jokes. With school starting up in, a few days? Who's in school already? You guys are already in school. Who's starting up this next week? So with school starting up soon, I thought it was important that you guys understood that when you guys are in school, and I hear this all the time, I've lived through this a lot myself. When you're in school, it's easy to go ahead and feel like you've got people who have your back, but in a few weeks, in a few months, in half a year, that guy that you gave everything to all of a sudden breaks your heart. Those guys who you thought had your back all of a sudden are pushing you away and stabbing you in the back. Those friends that you thought were gonna be so close through thick and thin, all of a sudden end up becoming your worst enemies. Friendships kind of pull apart. And when you guys come and you ask me these questions of, Rich, I'm just so upset, my friendships are breaking apart. Although I feel bad, I've been there. My question is, why did you pick them to be your friends in the first place? Friends are not just something we should be thinking that I'm gonna hang out with them because they are fun. I'm gonna hang out with them because I kind of like what they do. Friends are really the people who through thick and thin, no matter what, should have your back. And if you can't find and pick good friends, then you're gonna be in a bad spot. This series was talking all about how we make good friends. But as I was getting ready for this lesson, God sometimes does this for me. He went ahead and he told me that I'm gonna have to change everything about this lesson. So I started back at square zero. What's the first thing you have to know if you're gonna make good friends? And that's, you have to essentially be able to answer this question. And it's our title of the message today. The title is, what are you made of? What are you made of? I think we have a lot of people in this room who, when they pick their friends, this question determines what kind of friends they pick. They pick friends who are gonna treat them like garbage because they feel they deserve to be treated like garbage. They're gonna pick friends who are gonna treat them like an idiot because they feel like they deserve friends who are gonna treat them like an idiot. They pick friends who they know in the back of their mind are probably gonna hurt them a little bit. Why? Because they feel like they don't deserve to have good friends. Now, I have been able to be the benefit of having some actually really, really awesome, great friends. One of these friends I've known since I was in kindergarten, and his name was Isaac.
I know Isaac.
You know an Isaac? Is it the same guy?
I don't know.
Probably not. But this guy, Isaac, I'm gonna spit out my gum. Thanks for joining us on YouTube, where you can see awesome things like this every week. Anyway, sorry. So Isaac, here's a story about me and Isaac. When I first met Isaac, we were in kindergarten. This is back in the 1990s, when the Nintendo 64 was a marvel of modern engineering. Its 64-bit graphics would dazzle the mind. Like things never before seen. Donkey Kong 64, Mario Kart 64, Mega Man 64. It was the best of times. My Game Boy Color was getting constant use, and my Pokemon team was second to none. But as time went on, me and Isaac went from just being acquaintances and neighbors to quickly becoming like blood brothers, like that person who you would do anything for. And that friendship in high school blossomed into being a friendship where we knew we had each other's back no matter what. So when my sophomore year of high school rolled around, and the iPod was first released, and I'm not talking about this like kind of sleek and sexy iPhone type iPod. I mean an iPod that you could murder somebody with because it was like carrying around a brick in your pocket. But my friend Isaac had one of the first iPods, and like all treasured items, he kept it in the most secure location you could, his locker at school. So sure enough, as time went on, Isaac's iPod disappears. Now, this is my blood brother. This is a guy I would do anything for, right? And I hear rumor around school that the school mob has stolen my friend's iPod. Now, when I say school mob, I'm not talking about like the guys who wear leather and are kind of like the poser mob, but they're really all wusses. I mean, like, these are the kids who we are like pretty sure like steal car parts off of cars and sell them on the black market. I'm still to this day pretty convinced that this is a very shady crowd, but they had my friend's iPod. And even though I'm not like the most intimidating fellow, the fact that I said fellow proves that point. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. So I walk into our gym at school and I see the mob. They're playing soccer because they're all soccer stars for some reason. And I walk up in my Walmart shorts, my shirt that said Dr. Pepper on it, because you know, Dr. Pepper by day, Dr. Payne by night. I step up and look those guys right in the face with my long, curly, greasy hair and my broken glasses, and I say, hey, rumor has it you have my friend's iPod, and if that's true, you should give it back right now, or else. Now, very quickly, as soon as I walked up, I was like surrounded by these guys. They were ready to take me out. Actually, if it was not for the fact that I had a friend who I helped out in kindergarten who was part of the mob, who caught a soccer ball that was lobbed at my head like a million miles per hour. I probably would have been knocked to the head pretty good. But it turns out, for all that I did for Isaac, that the rumors, like they normally are, were not true. Isaac's iPod was not taken by the mob, but I didn't care. I didn't care about what I went through to protect Isaac because this was my blood brother, right? He deserved a friend like me. I deserved a friend like him. But strangely enough, even just a year earlier, this friend who I'd known since kindergarten, the friend who in my sophomore year I was willing to risk it for, this friend my freshman year I did not see all year long. And it's not because he moved. It's not because I moved. It's not because we'd had different friend groups. It's nothing that he did to me. It's really all because my freshman year, I started to have some weird thoughts in my head about me. I had fallen into some habits that I really wasn't happy about. There were some things going on in the background of my life that I wasn't proud of. And in the back of my mind, when I tried to answer the question of what are you made of, I had this constant feeling of just feeling bad. And I quickly started to think, I don't deserve to have a friend like Isaac. So I pushed him away. For a year, we did not talk. And luckily, through some leaders at the church, through some time with me being with Jesus, I eventually learned that, you know what, I am someone who deserves to have good friends. And that's not because of something that I've done. That's simply because of the way and who God made me to be. And here's the thing, God made all of you guys tonight that when you answer that question of what are you made of, you are supposed to have a good answer. That's what we're talking about tonight. Before we can talk about friends, before we can talk about what the plan is for your life, we have to get you guys to understand and find an answer to the question, what are you made of? Because if you can't answer the question, what are you made of, with something positive, your life will be nothing but negative. So to talk about this today, we're going to talk about two Bible characters, twins, Esau and Jacob. These guys were twins, they were brothers, but they couldn't be more different. You guys have probably heard the story before. Esau and Jacob, we're talking about in Genesis, the very first book of the Bible. And Esau and Jacob, like I said, are twins, but they are opposites. Esau is big and intimidating. He's got a burly beard. He's a hunter. If he was alive today, he would be wearing camo all over the place. Nothing can stand in the way of Esau. He was large and intimidating and strong and big. And I'm trying to think of a way of describing with like a modern analogy. Who's Esau? So Esau, Esau reminds me of somebody. I can't think of his name though. His name is
John C.
Boom, this guy gets it. But literally though, when you picture Esau in your mind, you need to picture someone like John Cena. He is big, he is strong, he is intimidating, and nothing is gonna get in his way. But when we picture Jacob, we have to picture someone completely different. So like I said, even though there are twins, Jacob is not big and intimidating and strong. He's not the older brother. Jacob is small and he's smart and he's conniving and he's tricky. Whereas Esau is big and dumb, Jacob is small and smart. You little brothers and sisters, you know what I'm talking about. So when I think of Jacob in my mind, who I think of is someone who's kind of meme-worthy, and that's, you guys might recognize this face. Some people are like, nightmare fuel. Quick, take him off the screen. I don't want to scare any poor children. Huh? What? What? Oh, that's so sad. I'll have to pray for him. Aw. But Jacob and Esau, brothers, completely different. But strangely enough, some of you might think that someone who's smart might be comfortable being the smart one. Someone who's strong and big might be comfortable being the strong and big one. But both of these brothers, both Esau and Jacob, were not happy with who they were. Why? Because the place they grew up in, their home life was a little bit crazy. See, both Esau and Jacob, being twins, they had the same parents, Isaac and, they had the same parents. They grew up in the same house. They grew up in the same place. And you might think that because this is a Bible story, this is gonna have a happily ever after moment, right? But actually this Bible story is kind of messed up because both mom and dad had the problem of playing favorites with their kids. I'm not talking about how you might suspect that your little brother is the favorite because he doesn't get punished as much. I'm not talking about how you might suspect that your older sister is the favorite because she gets new clothes and you don't. I literally mean that in the Bible, dad would say, Esau is my favorite because he goes and he kills stuff and he brings it home and I eat it. And I like that. I like Esau. He's big, he's intimidating, he's gonna make our family great. And mom would say, no, I don't like Esau. I like Jacob. He stays at home and he's smart and he works on things and he's gonna make our family great. They grew up in the same home with two people saying different things. One saying, I don't like you. One saying, I don't like you, I like you. Well, I like him. And as this happened, both of them began to get problems with their identity. They weren't comfortable being themselves. They weren't twins, they were twins. But Esau was older. Yeah. No, because his hand came out first. Yeah, because he was the oldest twin. He popped out first. Toothpaste? No, that was a different guy. I know a lot of weird Bible stories. I'll double check. Let's fact check that one, because I might be wrong, but I think I'm right. Anyway. When we think of Esau, this is Esau's personality in a nutshell. Esau's personality was a personality that said, I got this. I'm big, I'm strong, I'm John Cena, can't see me, can't stop me. I think for a lot of us going into school, we might have this personality of, I got this. And you know what? On the surface, having a big, confident personality isn't a bad thing. But what the Esau personality tends to fall into is this idea where you value what you're made of more than who made you. And I believe this is a slide. Esau began to value more what he was made of more than what made him. He began to value his strength, his appearance, his muscles, his size, his being his dad's favorite more than he valued his relationship with God. And I think for a lot of us, we have to understand that just because you're made of something special doesn't mean you should feel necessarily like you're better than the people around you. Because what happens is later on in this story, Esau eventually finds out that for all of his muscle and size and stature and skill, he loses everything because he thinks he's unstoppable. And in a moment of literally being hungry and acting stupid, Esau trades all of his money, all of his wealth, everything he owns for a bowl of stanky bean soup. Jacob on the other side, though. So if we're painting Esau to be the bad guy, that makes Jacob a good guy, right? But at the same time, Jacob had this problem of feeling like he had to keep it secret, meaning he had to keep his identity secret. I think a lot of us can feel this way too. Jacob literally, to just receive love and blessing from his dad, impersonated being his brother. His dad is on his deathbed, going blind, going deaf, and Jacob doesn't go in and say, Dad, I'm gonna miss you. I love you so much. Dad, can you bless me? Jacob, before he goes in, takes goat skin, tapes it to his arms, takes his brother's clothes, puts them on, and walks in to his blind and deaf dad's bedroom, impersonating his brother. Why? Because he's not gonna like me, but he will like him. I think in a lot of ways, even at school, even at home, there's people who, when we hang out with this crowd, we keep this secret. When we hang out with this crowd, we put on this personality. When we hang out with that crowd, we talk like this because they're not gonna like me. They're gonna like me if I act like someone else. Both of these characters are bad. Both John Cena Esau and Robbie Jacob. They're both not good characters. Why? Why? Because they couldn't answer the question, what are you made of, right? Let's look at 2 Timothy 2, because this is a weird way to have a lesson, right? And we all lived happily ever after. No, 2 Timothy 2, verse 20, has a verse that's written to kind of address this problem. And in the verse, the writer says, in a large house, there are things made of gold and silver, but there are also things made of wood and clay. Some of these things are used for special purposes, and some of them are used for ordinary jobs. Okay, let me go ahead and explain this a little bit better. How many of you guys have like the fancy plates that your mom and dad hold on to just in case like the president of the United States comes by for dinner one day, or in case like John Cena pops in and wants to have dinner? It's the special plates that really like haven't been used since the last time your grandma from out of state came over, the special plates. But then on like Friday night when it's you and the guys hanging out, you have the paper plates, the plastic plates that like you eat and you get the pizza stain on and then you use as a Frisbee and then you fold it into a taco and then you play with it as a puppet for a little bit and then you throw it away. Why? Because it's a paper plate. It's not very valuable. The writer here is saying, in a large house, and this large house he's referring to is in the church, there are people who are gold and silver, and there are people who are wood and clay. And here's the thing, a lot of us think that this verse right here describes everything about us. I'm the way I am because God made me this way. God made him gold, God made her silver, God made me a paper plate. That's just the way it is. I am the way I am. I'm not special. I'm not going to amount to anything because this is the way God made me, right? Forget you, God. Why'd you make me this way? But we can't just stop reading at this verse. We have to go to the next verse. And verse 21 says that God wants to use you for special purposes. So make yourself clean from all evil. Then you will be holy, spotless, essentially. And the Master, God, can use you. You will be ready for any good work. What verse 21 is saying, before we go on, is not that some people are made gold, some people aren't. That's the way it is. Deal with it. But what verse 21 is saying is gold and silver people aren't made gold and silver people. Gold and silver people over time make themselves into gold and silver people. If you want to be used for special purposes, awesome. God wants to use everyone for special purposes. But some people are content just to be paper plates. Some people, because the way they live, are just fine being plastic spoons. But other people, because of what verse 21 says, are making their lives clean of evil. Let's look at verse 22. Verse 22 continues and says, look, if you want to be gold and silver, if you want to be used for something special, then stay away from the evil things a young person like you typically wants to do. Don't be a typical student in school. Don't be someone who does all the typical cliche things that you know are destroying people. Do your best to live right and to have faith, love, and peace with the people around you. See, I think a lot of us have this feeling that when we answer, or when we think of the question, what are you made of? And the worship team can come on down. When we think of the question, what are we made of? We think, I'm made of just whatever I have. It's nothing special, and it kind of stinks. But this is who I am, and it's never going to change because this is the way that God made me. Some people even choose to not believe in God because they're angry about the way that they think God made them. But God, in these verses, in 2 Timothy, he's saying, yes, I made you. And yes, I made you for special purposes, but I can only use you if you give me something to use. God's not in the business of making people and using paper plates and plastic spoons. God wants to use all of you guys to do something great in the world. And that doesn't just mean he wants to use all of you guys to be a pastor, to work in a church. He wants to use people in Hollywood. He wants to use people on sports teams. He wants to use people in neighborhoods, in cities, in companies. He needs to use people everywhere, but he can only use people who, like verse 21, 22 say, clean themselves out. They're not typical. And they have a mindset of, I'm gonna be different. When you guys are able to do that, you can change the question, what are you made of? And start asking yourself this instead. What do I do with what I have? Lily, hey, I'm glad you're here. Maybe I'll have you preach sometime because you've been talking this whole entire service, girl. So you probably got something great to say. Am I right? Am I right? Anyway, what are you doing with what you have? God's gave you a life, and he said it can be used for something special. So starting now, what are you doing with what you have? Is it all just Overwatch and Minecraft for you right now? That's cool. Those video games are good. I play Overwatch too. My Mercy game's pretty good. My Doomfist game, little weak. Is it all just Instagram and social media? Is that just what you pour your life into? Or are you starting to say, you know what? I know that if I do this now, if I get rid of this typical stuff now, God will be able to use me for something big later on. God says he's ready to plate you, and he's ready to take gold and silver and take you from paper plate into gold in a minute. He can add the gold to your life, but he needs you guys to give him something to use.